On September 6, 1522, the Portuguese ship Victoria entered the harbor of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. The ship had set sail from the same port nearly 3 years earlier, undertaking the first circumnavigation of the globe under the command of Ferdinand Magellan. Antonio Pigafetta, one of the few survivors, wrote an authoritative account of the voyage in his place. According to Pigafetta, the European world first learned about Patagonia, and thanks to his descriptions, a fascination with this region emerged that would attract Europeans for centuries to come. Pigafetta describes the first contact between Europeans and the Patagonians. One day, we suddenly saw on the shore of the port a naked man of gigantic stature, dancing, singing, and throwing dust on his head. The captain general sent one of our men to the giant so that he would perform the same actions as a sign of peace. After doing so, the man led the giant to a small island where the captain general was waiting. When the giant stood before the captain general, and in our presence, he was greatly astonished and made signs with one finger raised upward, believing that we had come from the sky. He was so tall that we only reached up to his waist, and he was well built. Early maps of the New World sometimes bore the inscription Regio Gigantum, Land of Giants, in this region. Such a label in Latin appeared on maps up until the 17th century. This is a 1544 map of North and South America created by Sebastian Münster. On it, a vast sea occupies the area of North America. However, that is a topic for a separate, in-depth discussion. This map also contains more intriguing markings, one of which is the Latin phrase Regio Gigantum, which literally means region of giants. But this map is not particularly sensational when it comes to ancient giants. If you search for the word giants, you will find depictions of giants in the same region on other old maps as well. However, giants certainly do not exist there today. Who were these giants really, and what happened to them? It is known that Magellan managed to capture 2 giants to bring them back to Spain as proof of their existence. However, like Magellan himself, most of his crew did not survive the final journey, and it appears that the remains of both the crew and the captured giants were lost. Nevertheless, references by Spanish sailors and pirates to people of extraordinary height remained marked on 16th century maps. The ship's chaplain of the British pirate and explorer Francis Drake also wrote about encounters with very tall natives during their own circumnavigation. Men of great stature and magnitude, so extraordinary that they bear no comparison with any of the sons of men living in the world today. However, the British claimed that the giants were somewhat shorter than previously described by Spanish explorers. Francis Fletcher estimated that the tallest among them was about 2.5 meters in height. Perhaps the English simply did not encounter the taller natives during their voyage? The question remains open. It is noteworthy that reliable reports of unusually tall, giant people continued throughout the 16th century. In 1587, the English explorer Thomas Cavendish reported traces of giants in the same region, Patagonia. His loyal companion, Anthony Nivis, claimed to have seen living giants measuring 13 spans, or nearly 3 meters in height, as well as a murt body that was even taller. By the early 17th century, 2 Dutch sea captains also wrote about encounters with these giants. One mentioned that they were 3 to 3.5 meters tall, while the other described them as reaching between 3.5 to 4 meters in height. However, not all individuals were of such stature. Only members of a particular tribe they encountered during a landing in Patagonia. It is also remarkable that in 1766, the memoirs of the legendary British naval captain John Byron were published. Byron confirmed the existence of giants and even made a sketch of an entire family of them, with members of his crew offering them biscuits. For this reason, Matthew Mady, Secretary of the Royal Society, wrote a letter to the French Academy of Sciences, which we mentioned at the beginning. That there are giants here is confirmed. Mady continued, from 400 to 500 Patagonians of no less than 2.5 meters in height were observed and examined by the crew of one of our ships that had just returned from a circumnavigation. This sensational letter was published in the then influential journal, the London Chronicle. However, soon afterward, one of France's most prestigious scientific journals published a rebuttal to this sensational claim, arguing that the British had deliberately invented the legend of the Patagonian giants to distract attention from the selfish and real objectives of the English fleet off the coast of Argentina. In a 1774 book, the Jesuit missionary Thomas Faulkner, who spent nearly 40 years among the tribes of Patagonia, mentioned a tall chief about 2.5 meters in height, and also stated, "Patagonians are a people of large build, but I have never heard of the giant race mentioned by others, although I have seen people from all the different tribes of the southern Indians." Various researchers also noted that the height of some Patagonians ranged from 190 to 210 centimeters, which, even today, is considered very tall by European standards, let alone for the indigenous peoples of South America, whose average height is around 150 to 160 centimeters. So, what happened to the various indigenous tribes of southern South America, particularly in Argentina and Patagonia? It is evident that many were simply decimated during the era of the Spanish conquest. Today, very few indigenous people remain in Patagonia. The Tehuelche people, however, did not disappear completely, although their numbers declined sharply in the 19th century during military campaigns such as the conquest of the desert. According to census data, today around 17,400 to 23,000 people identify as Tehuelche, or their direct descendants. They live mainly in the provinces of Chubut Province and Santa Cruz Province. Unfortunately, their native language, Tehuelche/Aoneco Ayen, is now nearly lost for everyday use, and many have assimilated. Friends, what do you think about the giants of Patagonia? Did they really exist? Share your thoughts in the comments.